Let's see here. Okay, everybody, welcome to our third Coalition of American Canyoneers event. My name is Cameron Davenport. I'm a board member of the CAC, and I'll be your host tonight. Thank you so much for attending. It's nice to get to know everybody, see what everybody's doing, what everybody's up to, and all to come together over safety. How great is that to really be like, hey, we want to be more safe. So I'm really glad to have a lot of people here really focused on safety. So this is a presentation we've been really excited about for a long time. But before that, just a few updates. The Coalition of American Canyoneers has been working really hard behind the scenes. One big update. For the last 7 years, the Navajo Rim in Marble Canyon and the Grand hasn't been accessible down to Tatahasso and Tatahoeso canyons because the Navajo Nation was tired of people coming on the land and not following the rules. They just closed access and said, nah. And so if you didn't have a river trip permit to work out, you weren't going to do those canyons. But the board of the CAC has been working with the Navajo Nation and recently reopened with compromises. It was a true win for the national park, for canyoneers and the Navajo Nation. Now there's shuttle services available, so they feel good about having people come on their land. We have the access opened again, and win-win. Love those things. That's one thing the CAC is very much about is access, is making sure we can get to the canyons, working with everybody so everybody's happy about that. When you join the CAC on our website, it's free and you get on our newsletter. But when you buy a shirt or a sticker or anything like that or make a donation, your money goes right to access and things and projects. We have work going on in Moab to get ammo cans and canyons that are just getting hit that they need trail registers. And we're providing all that for them and working with the agencies there. Another update is Hanksville, Utah, the Santhrax campground area. Those areas are getting hit a lot. Those are such great canyons. We have so many memories if you've been to those areas of Leprechaun, whether you're a beginner or been doing this for years and you're just meeting up with a bunch of friends. It's a wonderful area and it's getting hit. And the area officials are tired of all the rescues and not knowing what to do and just the amount of beta people just going into the canyons. So they wanted to have all these new permitting rules and including an advanced 7-day permit for some of these canyons. And one of our board members found this out, Dean, and he worked extensively with the sheriff department and all that to work on a compromise to put signage at the trailhead. We are able to provide those signages and to keep access open because of you guys coming in buying a shirt. So be like the cool kids and show up at a trailhead in a CHC shirt because we're at the trailhead to be access together and then we can be safe. So it's really nice to have some results and to see what the CAC is doing. We truly believe that access is really important and having good relationships with the land managers who are like, all these people are in these skinny canyons and how do we get them out? And it's been such a really cool update to see things opening again, seeing compromises being made so we can all get in the canyons and have fun. So thank you for the support for all that. So you allow us to be able to do these things. And tonight is a really exciting presentation because we're talking about how do we have a communication about safety before we're in the canyon, before we're exhausted and stressed out and something's happened. How can we have that communication before that's not threatening or if you're nervous to have it? When you are canyoneering, if you're injured, whether you're hiking in a Grand Canyon or in a canyon, search and rescue comes out to get you, and they don't just show up and start descending to come and rescue. They have conversations at the trailhead and do everything systematically so everybody is safe, everybody is secure. So we reached out to Richard and Eric here, who are medical doctors and EMTs and with great experience in all this stuff, to say, hey, can you help us come up with a risk assessment conversation tool so we're at the trailhead? We can talk about things like, hey, we have a 300-foot rappel. Does everybody have an appropriate rappel device? Oh, you don't have your wetsuit? Oh, I have an extra one. Let me give that to you because canyoneering is a team sport. And if one person's cold, we're all cold. If one person's having a problem, everybody's having a problem. So it's really great to have this. I'm excited about this for myself to have a non-intimidating way to have a conversation at the trailhead and hopefully mitigate some risk, have more fun in the canyons. And for me, I got a preview of the presentation yesterday, and one of the statistics in the study is about half of us that are out a lot extensively with experience are going to get injured, which to me, I thought, well, that's the other half have to know what to do. So we should have had the conversation at the beginning. So welcome to Richard and Eric. They put all their time in this. They're volunteering. They made this presentation for us. And we're pretty excited about it. At the end, we're going to have a mock GAR so you can kind of get a feel of like, what would it be like if I met some canyoneers on Facebook and we were all going to do Inglestead in Zion National Park? How would we have this conversation in the parking lot? How do we apply it? So I'm really looking forward to that. Just to keep the conversation rolling. So with further ado, I'd like to introduce Richard, who's going to start us out. Thank you so much for being here and putting this all together for us.
Thanks. Yeah, my slide. There we go. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Kim, and the Coalition of American Canyoneers for this opportunity. Eric and I were excited about this project and that we could collaborate and combine our respective experience and knowledge on this. For my part, I've been a volunteer search and rescue for about 12 years, and I first got interested in safety and risk assessment 7 years ago when I attended a conference. And after a couple of false starts, I was successful in getting the GAR, a risk assessment tool, introduced and commonly used in both search and rescue teams in San Diego County, and then the SAR team in Riverside that Eric and I are on, and also participated in promoting that in San Bernardino County, so across Southern California. And I'll ask Eric to just say a few words about himself.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I have 14 years canyoneering experience. I brought Richard into canyoneering, I do believe. So
Did.
his first canyoneering trip was with me, and I think I took him out to Zion where he had a great time. So, and recently got my EMT, but been a whooper for a long time. Richard did bring me into this whole thing called risk assessment, because before him joining our team, it was pretty much cowboy team, and we just kind of did whatever. So bringing Richard on to really add this whole risk assessment tool to our team and now into the canyoneering world, I think has been a really good thing. So this is kind of what we're talking about.
Thanks, Eric. So, briefly, after these introductions and then a few disclaimers, I'm going to talk about risk assessment tools in general, and then go over the risks and accidents of canyoneering. And then I'll turn it over to Eric. He'll actually present what we came up with, the Canyon GAR, the method we used to develop it, some categories of risk in that tool, go over the use basic principles, and then, as Kim mentioned, we'll finish with a mock demonstration to help everyone understand how it actually works. So we do want to make it clear, as mentioned, that Eric and I we're just volunteers, recreational canyoneers. We have no financial gain from doing this or no product endorsements. We've shamelessly borrowed some material from others. And most importantly, as you know, canyoneering always carries risks. There's no guarantee of safety, and the burden is always on you, first and foremost, to assure your own safety. So let's talk about risk assessment tools in general. First question is, why bother? Why, what might we gain from this at all? Well, first and foremost, we should always be operating under the safety first principle. Just like search and rescue, canyoneering has inherent risks and dangers, and there's simply no getting away from that. We definitely want to assure the safety and health of everyone. And as was mentioned, that the assessments and decisions we make, whether it's search and rescue or canyoneering, are sometimes made under stress, fatigue, times of pressure. So we're not at our best in judgment making. And having a risk assessment tool can really aid in that. Not to mention that serious injury, other consequences, even death, may result from decisions that we make that are less than optimal. So, risk assessment tools can be informal or formal. It could be simply saying, hey, are you good? You got everything you need? Okay, good, let's go. I'm going to try and convince you that a formal assessment tool is much preferred. The having a standardized, structuredized approach does a number of things. It forces us to complete a thorough risk assessment. We're less likely to overlook factors and ensures that we cover the essential points. And it's going to reduce our risk of complacency as well. One of the things I learned when I got into this was for a risk assessment tool to be used, adopted, it has to be relatively simple, quick, and easy. If not, people are just not going to want to use it. So personally, I like things that are complex, analytical, but in reality, that doesn't work for most people. So that was one of the principles that we've tried to apply in developing this GAR instrument. And by the way, I should have said up front, the initials GAR stand for green, amber, red. And that's basically so it's color coding for our status in terms of our readiness to do whatever we're going to do. So formal GAR assessment tools are actually very widely used. They're used across our armed forces, including Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Civil Air Patrol at least. The the SAR-GAR, the Search and Rescue GAR that I'm going to show you, I borrowed largely from the U.S. National Park Service. The FEMA uses a SAR-GAR, the American Alpine Institute, many other agencies. And what I'm seeing is that it's becoming increasingly more common across agencies as well. So what you see on your screen right now is the SAR-GAR that we used in San Diego and Riverside counties. And there are close variations of this use across many search and rescue teams. The front part of the card on the left shows the green, amber, red color coding. And for this search and rescue, we have six categories: supervision, assignment complexity, the fitness of the team, the environment hazards, team capability, and then improvisation or mitigation. And the back of the card is basically reminds us how we use it. So it's all self-contained. It's a wallet-sized card that we carry with us at all time. When I give this presentation in person, I always like to pose this question and see what I get back. So what is the single most important benefit of a SAR risk assessment, regardless which tool is used? And the answer I like to hear is it simply forces you to pause and think before taking action. So regardless what type of risk assessment tool you use, having that in place and doing it routinely, getting it ingrained in what you do, it's going to prevent you from just rushing into something before you've actually thought it through, whether it's a search and rescue mission or dropping down into that canyon. So when I looked at this proposal that we develop a GAR for canyoneering, I thought it would be prudent for me to make sure I was fully informed about the risks of canyoneering and the accidents, and not just your own anecdotal experience, but looking for a broader representation. So I went to the literature, and I will say that we tend to think of accidents, but there's actually more to be learned from what we call near misses. Near misses are those things where we reflect back and say, we got really lucky, and that could have gone a whole lot worse. And typically, there are a whole lot more near misses than accidents, so we shouldn't ignore those. And it would be great if we had some kind of a database, not only of accidents that currently exist, but also near misses. This is what we do in search and rescue. We do near miss reviews. And whether you're reviewing an accident or a near miss, it's good to debrief that and to do it as soon as possible. Like what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, and what are the takeaways from that? What would you do differently next time? So I've actually found four publications in the literature, and I'm going to briefly summarize each of those. The first of these was published in 2020, and it was a retrospective analysis, that is after the fact, of canyoneering accidents over a 13-year period from Austria. And they actually came up with 471 accidents, and just over a third of those, 34%, resulted in severe injury. And among those, there were 9 deaths. So the death rate among those accidents was almost 2%. The most common activities that were being undertaken when the accidents occurred were jumping, rappelling, sliding and stumbling. The most common body part, almost half, was the lower extremity, then followed by the upper extremity and the spine. And you'll see this distribution in the other papers as well. The death rate was 1 death out of every 400 active canyoneer years, person years of canyoneering. So if you were an active canyoneer for 400 years, you'd have a good chance of dying. Most common cause of death was drowning. Sorry for that. The second publication came out in 2015, also a retrospective analysis. And in this case, they looked at all of the canyon rescue operations by an emergency response team in the Pyrenees in Spain over a 10-year period ending 2009. And they had 520 patients in this analysis, of which 81% were trauma related. And three-quarters of those were lower extremity, 13% upper, and about 10% spine. And about 10% were not traumatic, but medical or environmental causes. And half of those were heat related, a third were drowning, and the rest were medical illnesses and some hypothermia. Of the 520 patients, 5% were actual or potentially life-threatening, and the death rate was 4% in the series. Of the deaths, there were nine patients who died due to trauma, eight who succumbed to drowning, and two from cardiac arrest or cardiac syndrome. The third series, published in 2018, was a descriptive observational study that was prospective, where they mailed out monthly email questionnaires during a single canyoneering season in 2015. They were following 109 canyoneers across a range of experience, totaling 2,778 different canyon tours across 17 countries. And they recorded 57 injury events, which resulted from almost 14,000 hours of canyoneering, which is an injury rate of 4.2 per 1,000 hours of canyoneering. About half of these were just mild, limited to soft tissue injury. 40% or so were moderate, and 12% were severe. No fatalities in this particular series. And known to, I think, all of us, the most common injuries we see are bruises, abrasions, lacerations, muscle strains, joint distortion, ligament rupture, and medical environmental type incidents. And then the final series, the fourth, was a 2007 paper. It was a web-based survey of canyoneers linked to a popular canyoneering website. They had 38 responders in 2002, three-quarters from the US, and the study comprised a total of 250 person years. On average, the responders had 6.5 years of canyoneering experience. And the way they analyzed these data, they looked at the career incidence. That is, what's the likelihood of having an injury over your entire career of canyoneering? And so for the average canyonier's career, there were 2.4 cases of heat dehydration, about 1.5 hypothermia, about a half for major orthopedic injuries such as fractures. And then we had some falls, drownings, animal bites, snake bites. And as Cam alluded to, the really sobering statistic, the conclusion they came up with was based on this series, 1 in 2 canyoneers over their canyoneering career will sustain a major injury. So with that knowledge of with that knowledge of canyoneering risks and hazards, we can reliably categorize these into different groups where we've got water-related incidents, where we have drowning, can be from flash floods, high or low water, hydraulics, undercurrent sieve strainers, keeper potholes, and we've got waterborne infections like giardiasis. And then obviously temperature related or hypothermia and also heat related illnesses. We have falls, very narrow slots are a hazard, rockfall, suspension trauma, also known as harness hang syndrome, other types of trauma, fractures, sprains, strains, traumatic brain injury, or spine injuries, a number of other miscellaneous incidents related to snakes, ticks, animals, tularemia, bee stings, insects, poison oak, lightning, something called canyoneering hand, simply becoming lost. And whatever the incident is, we have to remember that the remoteness and the inaccessibility of the canyon itself is a risk. I certainly encourage you not to go alone. and remind everybody that if search and rescue is requested, you should expect a good number of hours before they come, especially if you're in a canyon. It's not like calling an Uber, like some people seem to think. You're going to be waiting a long time before help arrives in general. So we can also take a step back and say, are these preventable? And to a large degree, they are. And a lot of these, when on the analysis, may be due to either inadequate planning or simply not heeding the weather report, which can lead to incidents related to hypothermia, water-related incidents, heat-related incidents. Maybe it's overestimating group capabilities or experience, or simply getting in over your head. The drive to succeed, just like summiting that peak, is not the goal. The goal is to get back safe, all your body parts in working condition. Maybe an inadequate knowledge or familiarity with your equipment, a lack of adequate or optimal equipment, and then something we call the halo effect. My screen is really touchy, sorry. The halo effect is when you're overly influenced in a positive way, either by a person or a thing, where you kind of you assume, well, I know that he's been canyoneering for 15 years. I'm just going to trust what he says. And it tends to move you away from objective critical thinking. And we definitely want to avoid the halo effect. The heuristic decision making can be a problem as well. That's simply when we're acting on our past biases or experiences, taking mental shortcuts. It's an example of that would be, well, we've always done it this way and it's always worked, so it's going to be fine and we're going to do it that way again. And that type of thinking can get you into trouble. It's worth noting that actual gear failure is very rare. If there's going to be a failure of that nature, it's probably not going to be the gear, but it's going to be either the anchor failing or the rock itself. So what I've tried to do here is set the stage, set the context for Eric then to show what we did in terms of taking that information and developing a risk assessment tool that's specific to canyoneering.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Richard. Much like the other GARs that you've seen, we tried to break down this GAR into a few categories that could be cover kind of all the major things in canyoneering. And as you can see here, the seven main categories we came up with was leadership, canyon rating and complexity, the environment and weather, equipment, group experience, mental and physical fitness, and lastly, planning and contingencies. And then that last category down there, mitigations, it's basically if we had issues with anything in the first seven, were the mitigations that we came up with to solve that problem, are they acceptable or is it still an issue? So you can see this is kind of the card that we've come up with. It mimics a lot of other GAR cards that are used throughout the professional world. We're going to go through each one of these in great detail, but this is kind of what the card looks like. On the back of the card, it kind of gives you an example of exactly the process that you're going to go through in order to conduct this this risk assessment. So it's we're going to discuss this now, or is that another slide? Sorry, Richard.
I think we'll cover that in the slides towards the end. So I would
Sounds
just
great.
go into the categories and then we'll hit this after the categories.
Sounds great. So the first category is leadership. One has a group leader even been designated. That's always something kind of important because a lot of times, especially if you're doing sort of like a meetup, there might not be a designated group leader, and it kind of helps to have one. Is there a backup leader that's going to really make those decisions if your leader goes down? Are members comfortable with this team leader? Have you been working with them a bunch, or is this person brand new to you and you really don't know anything about them? Do we have good communications with each other? If it's a Class C canyon, you might not be able to yell down to and have voice communications. So do we have whistle signals or do we have some sort of radios? Do we have some sort of communication device that can alert search and rescue if something goes down? PLB, a Garmin InReach, something like that. And do we have more than one person that has it? Because if only one person has it and they're the one that goes down and we can't get to them, we can't call for search and rescue. Do we have beta printed on the canyon? Does the leader seem like they know exactly what we're getting into? Do they explain what's anticipated? Have they gone over a safety briefing? Have they said, hey, who's got the first aid kit? And who's got medical training? And then lastly, as Halo mentioned, as Richard mentioned, the halo effect. Is the leader critically being evaluated for their skills, or are they just super confident and bragging about themselves, and that's what makes us trust them, rather than the person that's just calm and explaining what's going on? So the next category is the canyon rating and complexity. When it's at the very beginning of this, the GAR risk assessment tool, it should be described by the leader exactly what's going on. The canyon we're going into, the hazards we're going to encounter, the amount of rappels, any significant obstacles that we're probably going to have to overcome, and the challenges. And is this worrisome to everybody or anybody? Is it something that be like, well, this canyon's got 7 or 8 pothole escapes. I've never escaped from a pothole before. So that would be a concern to bring up in this risk assessment tool. The next one would be environment and weather. Specifically, what's the weather forecast going to be on the day of the trip? Hopefully the leader or somebody checked that information the morning before everyone got there and really figured out what the weather's going to be like. Also how to interpret the clouds and changing the weather patterns. Do we have somebody in the group that can check that out? Because weather does change. It might say 0% chance, but as we all know, the wilderness makes its own weather, especially if you're like in mountainous terrains. Discuss warning signs of flash floods. Is there an escape route on this in this canyon? Do we have a way to bail mid-canyon, or if once we drop in, are we in it for the entire thing? Make sure to discuss start and end times. If there is a significant case of flash flooding in the afternoon, maybe we don't go at all, or if we do, we get a very, very early start and we know we're going to be out of there in 2 hours. And is everyone in the group comfortable with the risks due to the weather? Because, we all don't go, we don't abandon all our plans just because there's a 5% chance of rain. Or maybe you do. Equipment. So one of the things with equipment is that's probably one of the biggest things in canyoneering that we all take for granted, that our equipment is great and it works good. Our wetsuit, is it significant? Is it good enough for whatever canyon we're going into? Do we have adequate length of rope? Do we have backup ropes if that one rope gets stuck? Do we have the appropriate descent device for this type of rope? My ATC probably isn't going to work on an 8 mil skinny line, but maybe I can make it work. Do we have methods to apply friction mid repel? Do we have a way of ascending the rope if something does happen? Does everyone have a lanyard or tether on your harness? So that way you clip into protection before going over the edge. And is all of our gear in good condition? Extra rope back. I like this little picture of my shoe here because we got to a canyon trailhead and I tried to put my shoe on and it didn't actually fit. And it turned out that so much sand had somehow accumulated inside of the inner lining that I couldn't get there. And I had to slice a hole in it to drain sand. It's like, that's something I didn't anticipate. So very weird occurrence. More equipment. Do we have enough water? Do we bring a filter? I know I don't really want to filter most of the canyons I have out here in the southwest of America. Even filtered, that water's kind of nasty. Does everyone have flashlights and extra batteries, even if it's not anticipated? Yeah, having a headlamp, even if you're like, hey, we're going to be out of this canyon in 6 hours, we have plenty of daylight, but having a headlamp for every single person can turn what might be an insurmountable obstacle to something that's just kind of fun, because now we're canyoneering in the dark. Do we have all 10 essentials. Everyone got a dry bag to keep their clothing dry, especially if you have to spend an extra night in the canyon. Not trying for the first time new gear or a combination of gear. You know, the first time you use gear shouldn't be in the canyon. You should practice somewhere where it's a nice and safe, and you can do it at your own speed. And car keys arranged. Do we know who has the car keys to get out of here? And if we did have to go for help, especially if we're somewhere very remote, who's got them and where are they being stored? And then again, that halo effect comes to gear. It's like, yeah, no, I'm great. I got this shiny new critter and no idea how to use it, but I got it. So I know I'm going to be safe because they told me to get it. So that's one of the things to really, be cognizant about. So the next category, group experience. So this is kind of like the level of canyoneering and technical training amongst all members of the group. So, briefly give your experience and what you've done, and if you feel comfortable with everyone else that's coming on this trip. Levels provided with confidence for safe transit of this canyon. Prior experience with this canyon. Do you have map reading and navigational skills of each member is adequate? This is for a lot of canyons. There's just dropping into the correct canyon could be the overall hazard. Medical training discussed with all the members. And absent of complacency because a member has already run this canyon. That's a big one. I can say that there's been plenty of times where I'm like, hey, I've run this canyon like, a dozen times. And then I get there, I'm like, oh, I haven't run it in 5 years. Where's the drop-in again? Somebody pull out that Cal Topo. And then we have mental and physical fitness. This is one of the ones that can be hard to discuss because, we don't want to describe our inadequacies to our fellow teammates. But most of the time it's like, yeah, talk about what's going on. Do we have, has everyone had enough sleep? Is anyone under mental stress right now? Is everyone rested and alert, warm, adequately fed? Are we all physically fit enough to go into this canyon? This is a big one. Are there any recent illnesses or injuries? This might be the perfect time to discuss, I fractured my foot, 4 months ago, and I'm still coming off of that. And so I might be a little slow. Can everyone swim? This is one of the things that I experienced on a canyon where we had somebody that really couldn't swim, and we didn't know about that until we were already in the canyon. Discussion of medical problems, medications, allergies. This is a great thing to know ahead of time before you actually get in there, in case you do have somebody that's got oh yeah, I got a heart problem and I keep nitro on me. Well, that might be good information for the group to know before that person starts having a heart issue. And are the group dynamics healthy? This is probably a really big one. Are you all friends and good working together, or are you going to argue and fight over every little thing? And then lastly, planning and contingencies. So is the planning complete and adequate? Did we go through good plans, or was this canyon just really rushed? Or like, yeah, we're going to go do Great Falls of the Fox. I heard it's really cool. Let's just go out there and find it. Do we have good and recent beta for this canyon? It's like, oh yeah, I went on Rope Wiki. Somebody ran it yesterday. I know the exact conditions of it. They let us know what's going on. The size and location of the watershed. Do we know what the watershed is for this particular canyon in case there is threats of thunderstorm? Do we have detailed maps to every member of the group? Start time early enough. So even if we're traveling slower than we expected, we're still going to get out in time. Have we given trip plans to someone else outside of the group, including an expected return time, so that way they can call for a rescue if all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's midnight and I still haven't heard from them. They said they'd be out at 5 p.m. Do we have contingency plans? So it's like, yeah, we've got halfway through Imlay, there's a spot. We can bail out of here if we decide that we don't want to go. But once we drop into at this point, we're in it to win it, and we have to get through. So do we have a way to basically choose to bail out of this canyon if we need to? Do we have a good team selection? And lastly, try and keep your groups. If we have a small group, that's great because we can move typically quick and fast. If all of a sudden we show up and we're like, oh yeah, I brought my friend and he brought a couple of friends and now we got like 12 people all going through this canyon and we only brought, one rope, so we can't even leapfrog. And that's going to significantly increase the entire time that we spend in the canyon. And then lastly, the mitigations. So this is if there were any issues with any of those categories, if someone's like, yeah, I'm red, I didn't know I needed to bring a wetsuit to go down this canyon. Das Boot, I didn't think it was going to be that cold, so I didn't even bring a wetsuit. That would be a condition where there'd be red. And if the mitigation to that was, yeah, I got a wetsuit that kind of sort of fits, is that acceptable? Or it could very well be that, no, it's not acceptable. And that would be a red where that's like that person can't go down the canyon. And we have to figure out what to do now. So it's either we'll find another canyon that we might be able to do, or abandon the trip, or maybe him and his friend are going to be like, yeah, we're going to go spend a day, at the Zion Pizza Noodle. So this is how to conduct the canyon GAR. And you saw that it was on the back of the card. So we first assemble the group in an order of reverse experience gradient. In the professional world, what do we call it, Richard? What's the terminology?
Reverse authority.
Reverse authority. I had to make sure that we changed that because I don't like the authorities in the terms of canyoneering. So reverse experience. So the people that are the least experienced are the ones that go first, because if you get all the people that are really experienced that just say, yeah, I'm green on everything, the person that isn't that experienced might be the one that's like, well, I don't want to be the one that's holding stuff up, so I'm just going to say green anyways. So one by one, you go around the circle of people, and you basically list your status. And so for leadership, everyone would be like, yeah, I'm green, I'm green, I'm green. And one person might say, hey, I'm amber, because I don't know the person leading this trip. Who are you? And that would be a good time for them to maybe talk about their skills and what they've done, and be like, oh yeah, and here's all the information on this canyon that I've looked up beforehand. And that might change them from being amber over to green. So if anyone is amber or red, you have to immediately stop and discuss the reasons why, possible mitigation strategies, to either confirm that they are that color or to change their color, because it could very well be that they thought they were orange, but much like that leadership question, that after discussing all the reasons why there is a good leadership and there is a good plan in an order, that they might be, oh yeah, I feel more comfortable now. And then after leadership, you'd proceed sequentially through each of the remaining categories: canyoneering, grading and complexity, environment, weather, equipment, group experience, mental and physical fitness, and lastly, planning and contingencies. And then finish at the very end with mitigation. Good plan. Review all of the mitigations that we had talked about, and see if everyone is okay with this plan. And are we willing to accept the risk of going into this canyon, knowing the issues that we brought up. So the timing of the canyon GAR assessments, this is the basic principles. The initial one that you want to do is after the group understands the plan. So your leader or whoever is running the thing has basically said, hey, here's the canyon, here's everything we're going to plan. Hopefully they give you a good weather report. And after all your gear is collected, so that everyone knows what gear they have before stepping off. Theoretically, this can be done right at the trailhead, or this can be done right at your hotel room before leaving, or at the campsite. But it's before really stepping out there. You want to have access to your gear, access to have the ability to bail. You shouldn't be doing the GAR after your first rappel into the canyon. And then repeat it at any significant milestones. It could be before it's dropping in, or maybe the weather changes. Like, I just got this thunderstorm rolling through my house. At this point in time, it might be, hey, we need to reassess what's going on and figure out if we need to just bail out of here, because now half the group is red on weather. If someone gets injured, if someone gets an injury, we need to reevaluate this and go through this and figure out exactly if we're okay to proceed, or if we need to come up with some sort of alternate plan. So we use the reverse experience gradients to avoid that halo effect. So where you don't just have the braggadocio leader who everyone just wants to say exactly what they say. So hopefully the newer people can comment on their concerns that they might have. If one person is red, that means the entire person is red. So if one person is amber, the entire group is amber. And strive to mitigate reds and ambers. So if we can mitigate a red and an amber, awesome. If we turn a red into a green for some reason, that's what we're looking to do. We're trying to mitigate any possible risk we have before we actually drop into the canyon. Any unmitigated red means no go. As Richard has here, it says all to say go, one to say no. So we need everyone to be okay with going in. If one person says that they're a no-go, it's either the entire group is going to say, okay, well, we can't go in, especially if we needed this person. Or, again, maybe a couple people need to stay back if that's the case, especially if you have a big group. And begin only if the potential benefits outweigh the risks. And this is a big one. The canyon's not going anywhere. If we have to say, hey, it's just too risky to go in it right now, we're just going to bail. And we'll come back, in a couple of weeks when the conditions are better or when my foot is healed, something like that.
Thanks, Eric. That was really good. In case anyone is interested in digging in deeper, I've included the slide that has some links to some of the databases for accidents, incidents, and you should be able to pull this off the slide when this is up on YouTube. And similarly, these are the full citations for the 4 studies that I went over briefly, also available when this is up on YouTube. And then I want to cover a couple important reminders before we get to the mock use of the Canyon GAR. And just to remind you that this tool is nothing more than an aid to your safety and no way diminishes your own responsibility to assure your own safety. We tried to think of everything, but I'm sure there's other considerations that we haven't included. We've talked about a halo a couple times, so in that context, please don't let the Canyon GAR become a halo in itself. You should know what I'm talking about there. And then finally, as I started out by saying, canyoneering always carries risks. There's no guarantee of safety, and the burden is on you primarily to assure your own safety and help assure the safety of your group as well. So, as promised, we are going to do a very brief Canyon GAR assessment. So we can kind of demonstrate what we talked about and hopefully make it a little more clear. So back to you, Eric.
Absolutely. So for this mock canyoneering GAR, we chose Inglestead Canyon. It's one of my favorites, and it has some potential issues. People have died in the canyon before because of the very first the large rappel as you're entering the canyon. So I figured that it was a good one to do this on. So for this mock 10-year GAR risk determination, it would be like we have 3 people that all met via Facebook and are like, hey, I'm in Zion and I'm looking for more people that want to do Inglestead with me. I got a permit. Who wants to hook up and do this? And Cam and Richard decided to join me in this adventure. And we all met. I said at the trailhead, but it's not really a way to park all of our vehicles there. But we'll say that we all hopped aboard the shuttle and got a trip out there, and we're about ready to drop in. But we want to go over the canyon risk assessment. So we're going to take you through exactly how this type of GAR risk assessment would go. So. Hey, so yeah, we're going to go Inglestead Canyon today. It's about 10 rappels or so. The first one, it's a pretty big drop in. It's about 270 feet. We're going to try and do it in just one single rappel. I brought this 8 mil 300-foot rope that I've used before. It's a great rope. It's a skinny one, but it works pretty good for something like that. So that way we don't have to carry a lot of weight through the canyon. I did check the weather this morning. It's a high in the 70s, low in the 50s. We're looking at about a 10% chance of thunderstorms after about 5 p.m. tonight. Um, so we're going to drop in. The canyon's normally pretty dry in Inglestead, but we do go into Orderville and the Narrows, so we will be very wet. So hopefully everyone brought their wetsuit as well. And so with that, giving me just giving my canyoneering group kind of hopefully everyone's looked at the canyon a little bit before dropping in. We can kind of go through the leadership to start up. So with the leadership one, again, we're looking at the confidence of the leader. Do we have a backup leader? Do we have communications? For the PLB. So for initially for the leadership, I'll be like, yeah, I've got a Garmin InReach that we can activate if need be. Hopefully it works in the canyon because if you're deep in a canyon, sometimes InReaches don't work. And we'd go through the leadership category and reverse experience. So for this,
that would be me.
yep.
I'm green, Eric.
And I don't know, honestly don't know your experience, Cam.
I'm green on the leadership as well.
Okay. And
We're
I'm the leader.
assuming you're the leader because you got the permit and put it on Facebook to invite us all.
You got it. And I'm the leader, so I hope I'm green in my own confidence. And then the canyon rating complexity. So again, we're going to talk about, I've kind of described kind of what we're experiencing in this canyon. Shouldn't have any potholes. Some of the rappels, we do have to build our own anchors if they've been washed away. So we might have to build some dead man anchors. But that's about as complex as it gets. The biggest thing is probably that 270, 300-foot rappel right at the beginning. And we'll start with you, Richard.
Yeah, I'm red. That 270, that sounds really intimidating to me.
Yeah, I mean, it is intimidating. What's the largest rappel you've ever done before?
Probably 200.
Okay. What device do you have for rappelling on?
I'm a squirrel.
Okay. So a squirrel's pretty good. You should be able to add. So the biggest issue with rappelling on a big canyon like this, a big rappel like this, is being able to set your friction correctly as you descend and be able to add friction as you descend down.
I also have my ATC.
Yeah, we don't want to use the ATC for this one, but a squirrel should work pretty well, especially if you put a lot of friction on it. Would you feel comfortable if you had like a fireman's as well when you went down?
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I'd be an amber then. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And if you're still feeling amber, theoretically, we do have enough rope here. We could also give you a top belay if we really needed to. If we really wanted to make you feel super extra safe, we could have you rappel, and we could also give you a top belay from up top.
Maybe we can make that call when we get there. See how it looks to me.
Okay, we'll do another canyon guard before we drop in at that point in time.
Great.
But as long as you're okay with so far with those those plans for the rating and complexity.
Yep.
We can continue on, but you're still amber for right now?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Cam?
I'm feeling green about the complexity.
Green, I love this canyon. I love big rappels.
Yep.
Environment and weather. Richard?
Green.
Cam?
I'm feeling a little amber because while it's only 10%, we're going into the narrow, so I'd really like to discuss maybe starting early or something because I'm just feeling a little nervous about it.
I agree. 10% chance of thunderstorms for me is 10% chance of death. And I really don't, even though it's not really a direct correlation, that's how I always feel in my mind. So I just say that we start, it's 5 p.m. is when it's supposed to be rolling in. I say if we are dropping into the canyon at first light, I'm happy. I think that gives us adequate time to get out of there. But if for some reason we're delayed, like the shuttle, takes us a couple hours to get there and we're not dropping into the canyon until 10 or 11 p.m., I'm not comfortable with that. And I would say a no-go at that point in time. So as long as we get a nice bright and early start right at first light, I would be okay with going, even though I am kind of on the amber side on that as well.
And I'm hoping we can reassess after the final rappel since we'll be at the junction. And if the sky's not looking great, we can maybe go out the other way and avoid the narrows.
Yep, we can go right up Orderville there and get on out of here. So that's a great option as well. Okay, so next one is equipment. Richard,
I'm green.
Cam.
I'm red. I left my normal rappel device at home, and so I have this old ATC that I used to use on rappels, so I'm sure I can make it work though.
Yeah, I again, much like Richard mentioning an ATC on the 8.3 Canyon Fire rope I have here, I am not comfortable with you using that device. I do have an extra critter. Have you ever used a device like this before?
Yes, it's one of my normal devices, so I would be comfortable using that instead of my ATC.
Awesome. Well, you're taking my backup rappel device, but I think we can make do as long as we don't drop one or something like that. And once we get past this big rappel, if we had to rappel using an ATC or something like that, I think that would be okay. But this first big one, yeah, if you're used to using a critter, we'll rock with that. I think that'll be okay. I am also green. I got my totem and I love it. And I do have a first aid kit. I've got all the 10 essentials on me. I've got, a 30-pound bag. I'm probably overpacked for this trip, but want to make sure that I'm okay. Group experience.
I'm green.
I'm green.
I'm also green. I've looked you guys up on Facebook. I've seen which canyons you guys ran before, and I felt pretty confident in taking you guys in. Mental and physical fitness. Richard.
I'm green there too.
Cam.
This is a good point to let you know that I have epilepsy, so I keep my anti-seizure meds in the brain in my red dry sack. Here's what it looks like and how you use it.
Perfect.
I'm green if y'all are green knowing it.
No, that's great. Thanks much for letting us know. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
I am amber on it. I did hurt my back a couple of weeks ago. I had a slip disc. I haven't had pain for a couple of days, but it's just been kind of sore. So if you guys might want to carry the 300-foot rope through the canyon for me, I would be greatly appreciative of that. And I'll get you guys a beer at Design Brewing Company when we're done.
I've carried the 300-foot every time I've gone through Ingolstadt, so I might as well do it again.
Oh, well, thank you so much. With knowing that, I would go to green, knowing that I didn't have to carry a lot of gear through it. Planning and contingencies. How does everyone feel? Do we have adequate info on the beta? Have we evaluated the watershed? Do we have good maps? And are we starting early enough? Richard.
Yeah, based on what you said and my own research, I'm going to be green on that.
Cam.
Yes, especially since I get to borrow your critter and don't have to use an ATC on a long rappel. So I'm green as well.
Cool. And I am also green. I've done a lot. I've done this canyon many times before. And yeah, as long as you get that early start, I'm happy. And the last one is the mitigations, where we kind of talk again about the things that we had that we were amber and red. Are we okay with this plan that we've come up with? Are we okay with you using my critter? Are we okay with Richard getting the top belay or the fireman's belay to get him down that 270 so he feels comfortable? And yeah, going through all the other, are we okay with the weather as long as we start this thing nice and early, getting out of here knowing that there is a small chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon?
Yes, and reassessing at the end of the canyon before we drop into the narrows.
Yep, that sounds like a great comment. Richard.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with the plan to address my concern about the 270-foot rappel, and the rest of the mitigation sounded quite adequate to me as well. So I'm green on mitigations.
I'm green as well.
And I am also green. Let's rock this canyon, baby.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
And so that's kind of
3 hours. Just kidding.
That's kind of what a canyoneering GAR would sound like. Since we developed this, I've been using it in canyons, and it takes, depending on the group that you're with, no more than 10 minutes. And it's a thing that you can really go through to kind of go through all those little things in a very systematic way. And I think that's the big thing, especially that Richard mentioned. The biggest thing is it just forces you to stop and talk about this thing rather than you just show them with the leader and be like, we're going to have a bomb ass time in the canyon, y'all. Let's go. Right. It really, whoa, that was a loud thunderclap. It really takes you, it allows you to take the time to talk about all the things to figure out, hey, if we're amber on things, how are we going to do to mitigate it? And everyone kind of know what the issues are that are going on.
All right.
So we'll open it up to discussion and questions before. If you want to pop a question in the chat, we can get that going and answer any questions. I will let you guys know we're kind of honing in the card, make sure it's going to format okay. Make sure to sign up for our email letter. So when we do get the card ready, we can email it and you'll get a copy of it and you can screen cap it to your phone so you have it. And we do want to find a way to be able to get these out to folks so you can put them in your first aid kit or in your pickpocket. So it's right there on your phone case or something like that, because just conversation can really mitigate a lot. Um, it's hard, a lot of us have lost friends and things like that to look at things and be like, wow, what if a conversation? And so don't be the what if, since that huge statistic of 1 in 2 of us is going to get hurt, which means the other one has to help. So it's just a really important topic. And I love that this gives you a way to use a system that professionals use rather than looking like the nerdy, nitpicky person at the trailhead, which I've been called before. So now I'll never have to be that again because I've got the card. So, um, nitpicky saves lives. So doing something like this is a great thing just to go through it and just ask the questions because you never know. Whether you've been 15 years canyoneering, you can leave your rappel device in the car being brand new. So it's just important to have those conversations. I don't see any questions at this time, so I'll just keep giving announcements until if there's any there. We will be hosting a presentation in a couple weeks on safety tethers, just information on them, like how to pick them, things like that. And we have another great professional that are going to come in and talk about that. So please register for our newsletter so you can have the link right there. Be following our Facebook and Instagram page and stay connected. And don't forget to buy a shirt or a sticker or something, because remember, your help does help directly keep access open so we can have these discussions at the trailhead and look very safe and mature. So hope to see you guys out and have these conversations because they're very important. Was there anything you, Richard or Eric, wanted to add towards the end, or?
Nothing to add, but still available for any questions.
The problem is y'all were so thorough. So like, okay, I'm good. I feel good. I didn't have the mock. We didn't do this before, so it was really cool to kind of feel it in the moment with just the parameters of knowing. So hopefully that was helpful. I really do believe there's not question because it was like we're getting fantastic work, awesome presentation. So I just think that it was so very thorough. Thank you both. I know you spent a ton of time on the research, so it's super appreciated from us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you for showing up, and we'll look forward to having you at more events.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
We're all good.